Hello, this is Marissa, and today I'm going to be talking about structure, form, and white space in regards to the two essays I chose. There are Distances Between Us by Roxane Gay and Summer Days 1983 by Ira Sukron Gruang. I'm sorry if I butchered the name. But structure and form initially doesn't really seem that important, but oftentimes it changes the meaning of the piece and what we take away from it. And visually, it makes a really big difference with how we read it. It can change the pacing, and it's just writing is a very visual medium because most people just read it off the page. And so if I wrote the word stare and put spaces in between each letter, it will emphasize the length of the stare in question, but read aloud, it won't really make a difference. There are things that exist like italics and bold print, and those exist for the reason that structure and form is actually very important. So the first essay I chose is Summer Days 1983, and they both of these essays have two totally different styles of writing. And if you didn't read this one, Summer Days, it's okay. You can probably just get away with just looking at it. But I'm going to read an excerpt from the very last section of the essay, and it's on page 57. I tell my wife the story. We are in bed, the southern Illinois sun filtering through the lace curtains, our dogs lying in patches of light. She tells me it's not normal, but it didn't feel wrong then, nor does it now, only a memory without anchor. She says I have stored this memory in a dusty corner of my brain. Perhaps. Perhaps this is what we do, sometimes, to endure. Perhaps we wish these moments away like an eyelash, like dandelion fuzz. When he comes back, it is without sentiment, a dropped rock in water, ripples and ripples, spreading and spreading. What remains is a drawing left too long in the rain, the faint lines of chalk, a world empty of grace and color. You can sort of get the essence of the piece just based on this last excerpt. It kind of shows how memories are moments in time, and the meaning and what used to be the meaning of the moment isn't always remembered. The format of this essay also reflects this memories are moments because it's comprised of parts. Like the last part I read was Roman numeral 7. The purpose of this essay, in my opinion, is recognizing that there isn't always an anchor to memories. There's an attempt to make meaning of these memories, but he seems to be reconciling with the fact that we don't always have that. We don't remember everything. Sometimes all we have are parts. The format really adds to this piece. It adds to the overall experience because it was used well. With the theme of moments and moments in time. It sort of helps the reader understand the point he's trying to make. Last summer I took a class on writing poetry. We think a lot about form in poetry, but I think it's easier to forget in nonfiction writing because the length is typically longer. In the class, I wrote a poem about lines and boundaries being crossed, so the form I used was 2 blocks of text side by side, separated by a transparent line. I know it's not very easy to picture, but just try your best. But the point I was trying to make was that boundaries are easily crossed when the lines or limits aren't declared in a relationship. And so in that case, the form sort of adds to my meaning. The other essay I chose to focus on was There Are Distances Between Us by Roxane Gay. This essay has no pauses, breaks, nothing. I'm going to read a little bit from the beginning and a little from the end, and it's on page 120. The interstate highway system in the United States is the largest and most sophisticated in the world. It is named for President Dwight D. Eisenhower. There are 2 points, and between them, a distance between you and me. These 2 points are connected in ways we will never fully understand, but they are connected. You are there, and I am here. We are red stars on a map, protected beneath hard plastic in the highway rest areas tired travelers touch to make sense of where they are. I have counted the miles, yards, feet, and inches between us. There are too many. And I'm going to read the end of the essay. My father is a civil engineer. He is always concerned with infrastructure, the strength of holding the world together. He has always filled my head with information about highways and tunnels and concrete. I've retained little. The ingratitude of children is staggering. I do know this, however, if nothing else were in the way, we would always be able to reach each other. We would close the distance between our 2 points. We could point to a map and say, we are here. So, with the essay being all one breath, sort of, it adds to the point that everything is connected, despite the distance between the beginning and the end of the essay. The words and sentences connect with each other, just as the interstate highway system does, just as the connection between the speaker and the you in the essay does. Both of these essays use a different form, as I said earlier, but both add to their overall point. Structure may not seem initially important, but I hope that what I've told you will make you think a little differently about it if you haven't already. But there is a wrong way to use form and white space. In that same poetry class I was talking about earlier in the summer, the professor told us to write a sonnet and then change the form, add breaks, spaces, reorganize the lines, just present it differently visually. And I tried my best to make meaningful pauses and line breaks, but it wasn't all that easy because I think I was doing it after it was already written. I already had a form in mind in my head, and the one on the page didn't add to that. The form didn't really elevate my poem, it just looked different, just meeting the criteria. So my question for y'all is, how does form impact your writing? Do you even think about form when you're writing? Have you ever used form poorly like I did? Or not poorly, just didn't use it successfully? And my prompt for you is pretty predictable, but write in a style where the form adds to the point of the essay or excerpt you're writing. Like if you're writing about a duck and the shape of the essay is a duck. The reason I sort of chose this point for my craft talk was because the hermit crab essay was coming up, and I wanted it, and I thought it would help me think about form a little differently. But that's all I have. Thank you for listening and have a good rest of your day.